We are coming up on the start of another NBA season, so it's time to play a little Fact or Fiction and recap the preseason. What was real? What was not? What do we believe? And what's going to change today on Locked On Magic?
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is October 21st, 2025. My name is Philip Rossreich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to do a little fact or fiction. We're going to have some fun with preseason stats, what we should be believing, what we shouldn't be believing, and how this team's going to develop. We'll break down and recap what we saw in the preseason coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies. That means you're listening first thing in the morning, or you're listening on your day every day, Monday through Friday, and on the weekends after games. All part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We have 4 games of incomplete data as we head into the NBA regular season. We have 4 games of we think we know, but we're not 100% sure. And so before we dive headfirst into this 82-game journey, and again, I stress that enough. This is a journey. Don't worry about the destination. Let's enjoy the journey. Let's get through the journey here. The destination will solve itself because of the journey. But let's start with what we've learned and seen so far, because there are some very interesting stats and very interesting trends to keep an eye on in the preseason. And we'll decide whether any of this is real or not. Obviously, I think the biggest thing that we're all curious about, the biggest thing that we want to know is whether the Magic's offensive gains from this preseason are real. Whether how well the Magic played on offense means anything. Now, obviously, we're only dealing with 4 games, and we're dealing with an incomplete picture because of the subbing and all that happens during the preseason. But the numbers also kind of don't lie here either. For the preseason, the Orlando Magic had the second best offense in the entire league. 122.2 points per 100 possessions. Now, again, I'm not so concerned about the raw number. Scores are always a little bit up during the preseason, and the Magic had a 44.3% offensive rebound rate. We'll talk a little bit more about that because I'm a big believer in this team's rebounding, but 122.2 points per 100 possessions. On top of that, the Magic had a pace of 103.5 possessions per 48 minutes. That put them 15th in the league. Pretty solid. We'll take that. Now, whenever I look at preseason stats, and again, 4 games, we're going to make this sample size even smaller. So there's going to be wild variations. But when I typically look at preseason stats, I say, let's look at the first half, because for the most part, we know that's when the Magic starters are in. So the Magic go from 122 points per 100 possessions for the entire game down to 112.7. Now, 112.7 is still a lot better than what they were last year. They're still about 5 points per 100 possessions better than they were last season. But 112.7 points per 100 possessions is 15th in the league. Again, the Magic will take that. The Magic would take being 15th in the league in offensive rating. Now, again, it's preseason. Paolo wasn't at full tilt. Franz wasn't at full tilt. Desmond Bane certainly wasn't at full tilt. I'm a little hard-pressed to say this is who the Orlando Magic are. In fact, I know I've cited this stat before, and I've said, look, the Magic the Magic probably aren't going to be the second best offensive team in the league. In fact, during the first half of games, the Magic had an effective field goal percentage of 48.9%, which was 26th in the league, including the international teams that played in preseason. They still had one of the worst shooting percentages in the preseason. Now, I want to preface this by saying Cleveland Cavaliers were at 46%. No one's worried about Cleveland shooting in the regular season. Again, this is why we can't read preseason stats as gospel. But I want to make this point. The Magic were, again, 15th in the first half of games, second in the overall game. Last year, the Magic were also 15th in first half offensive rating in the preseason at 110.5. So the Magic are 2 points per 100 possessions better than they were last year when they were about the league average in the first half of games. Does this mean the Magic are set to make a major offensive gain? Like I said, I think they're better. I think the pace is going to help them. I think they're going to get out and run more. I think that they'll get easier shots. I think Bane will be a bigger boost than we've seen so far. I do think the Magic are a better offensive team. They're not the second best offensive team in the league. I think the goal is to be league average. And again, the goal is to be better, is to be the best you can be. But if the Magic have a league average offense, then they're going to be in good shape. Are the Magic going to rebound at the rate that they rebounded during this preseason? 40% offensive rebound rate is pretty ridiculously high. I think the Rockets were at like 30. I think if you're at 33%, you're doing really well. I think the Rockets were at like 34, 35% last year. The Magic probably aren't going to get that many bites at the apple. Those second bites at the apple that they were getting. However, these are signs that the Magic are going to be better offensively. And I would still argue, even as bad as the Magic were offensively last year, so much of that was the injuries as much as it was anything else. And obviously, the shooting wasn't good. And I think some of that, again, was because of the injuries, especially the early injuries the Magic had. The bigger concern is that the Magic's defense never quite rounded into form. The Magic's defense didn't quite get in shape. In the first half of games, so let's look at the whole game first. I want to tease it a little bit. In the entire game, the Orlando Magic had a defensive rating of 107.5. That would be 13th in the league during the preseason. 107.5. Remember that number? 107.5, 13th. In the first half of games, just the first half of games, the Magic's defensive rating was 110.8. Which during the regular season would be very good. But that was 19th in the league. 19th in the league in the preseason. This is not the defense that the Magic are accustomed to. And certainly we can say, well, they turn the ball over a lot. The turnovers are pretty high. And because they're playing at a faster pace, there's more turnovers. Other teams are also trying to play at a faster pace. I kind of think the Magic's defense is going to take a little time to really round into form. This is not to say I don't think the Magic will have a top 5 defense. I think that they'll be in and around the top 5. I don't think they'll be top 1 or 2. I don't think they'll be the top defense. I don't think they'll be top 2. I think they're going to take a little step back on the defensive end to make some more offense, to create some more offense. However long Tyus Jones is going to need to start, that's going to be a little bit of a defensive hit too. And of course, the hope is that the Magic are going to play better offensively, that they don't need their defense to be dominant, to be elite the entire game. They need to be good, don't get me wrong. And I think for large, and again, like you go back and watch those preseason games, and I'm pretty sure I said this route, there were good moments, lots of good moments. There's just like, okay, like the effort's there. It's just precision, fine-tuning some things, just being more focused. They're fouling a lot. They're turning the ball over a lot. Those are hurting their defense. They'll be fine in the long run. And I do believe the Magic will be fine in the long run. The Magic may end up finishing like 5th or 6th in defensive rating, but the hope would be after the All-Star break, they'd be like 2nd or 3rd. They'd be top 5 in defensive rating. I think it's more likely that the Magic take a little bit of a step back statistically on defense, but really aren't sacrificing that much because they're just trying to score a little bit more, trying to get more bites at the apple. This is what I've seen in the preseason. So the question is, fact or fiction? The question is whether these games, whether these numbers mean anything. And I'll be the cop. I do the cop out. I'm creating my own system here. I think that the defensive numbers have a little bit of fact in them, but they're fiction. The Magic are going to be fine on defense. They're going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. Offensively, I think the offensive numbers are a little bit of fiction, but I think at least the first half numbers are about where the Magic are going to end up. Middle of the league, middle of the pack. And even that is going to be a huge gain for this team. The question is, what other stats do we believe? What else can we learn from the Magic's preseason run? If the big picture looks like the Magic have improved, where is that improvement coming from? We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. With Built, whether you're grabbing food at your favorite local restaurant or heading to the gym, you are still earning rewards. Built has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonandme. That's Join Built, JOINBILT. That's Built, BILT.com/lockedonnba. That's 2 N's in there. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. Again, that's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by friends over at Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've always been a boxers guy, was willing to try briefs, and ever since I've tried Skims, it has been the best thing in my life. It has been made me not think about my underwear except when I have to do these ad reads. You hear so much about the quality from friends and family. You have to give it a try. I'm telling you to give it a try. So it lives up to the hype. Underwear is uncomfortable to talk about, but when we know it's wrong, we know it's wrong. When the fit's bad, the comfort's bad, it's the wrong style, it's bad. Skims changed all of that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I've tried several different Skims varieties. I've tried the stretch boxer brief. I have tried the cotton brief. All of them are so comfortable. I am literally hooked. These are perfect for my active lifestyle. They move with me, never lose their shape, and stay in place all day. Whether I'm working out or running errands or sitting at my computer typing away or yammering on this podcast, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I have ever owned. Plus, that lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. So head on over to skims.com to shop Skims Men's. Let them know we sent you after you place your order, again, at skims.com. Select podcast in the survey and select our show, Locked On Magic, in the drop-down menu that follows. Again, go check it out today at skims.com. So what is going to make the difference for the Magic? What's going to be the thing that tips this team over? Obviously, a lot of that is just going to be based on better shooting. The Magic are trying to increase their pace. They're trying to create easy points. They're literally saying, we did not score enough points off all the turnovers we created. The Magic were second in the league last year in an opponent turnover rate. They did a really good job forcing turnovers, not so good a job creating points off those turnovers. Half the thing that the Magic are trying to do with this increased pace is just to score off the turnovers they're creating. It's not necessarily about getting more possessions or getting faster in the half court. It's just about taking advantage of opportunities they're not taking advantage of otherwise. And so a big piece of this puzzle, it's obviously Desmond Bane. The Magic got Desmond Bane to improve their shooting, to make them a better three-point shooting team. And obviously, we have not seen the best of Desmond Bane yet. In the preseason, Desmond Bane averaged 8.5 points per game. He shot just 38.5%. He was 5 for 13. He shot 1 for 5 on threes. And I don't think I'm only getting 2 games here, so I probably have these numbers wrong because for some reason NBA.com has not updated the preseason stats. That's not the end of the world. He didn't shoot much better. He's like 1 for 9 on threes. I think he was 0 for 4 in that game against New Orleans. So Desmond Bane left a lot of points on the board in the preseason, a lot of points that we expect him to get. And look, nobody's worried. I think there's going to be a little bit of growing pains. I think the Magic are still going to be figuring out the best way to use him, the best way to get him his shots. But I also think the Magic kind of wanted to test out his playmaking more than his shooting during these preseason games. During the time that he played in the preseason, he played 3 games. I think they were more interested in seeing him as a playmaker, putting him in situations where he could get downhill and just saying, be aggressive, be fast. Don't worry about shooting yet. We know it's going to be there. And from everything I've heard in practice, he's making shots. Then again, that's what they told me about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope last year. So we'll see how it translates in games. So I'm not worried about Desmond Bane, just like I'm not worried about how Paolo struggled. We saw him turn it up in the game against the Pelicans on Thursday. I'm not worried about Franz. We saw him turn it up in the game against the Heat in Orlando on Sunday, last Sunday. I'm not worried about the Magic stars showing up. The 2 players that I do believe, the 2 players that I saw that I was like, I do believe that this is real, was Wendell Carter and Tristan da Silva. Now, we watched Tristan da Silva all summer long at Eurobasket really thrive in his role. And just from my eye, Tristan da Silva just looks so much more confident. And that's such a big thing. Confidence is such a big deal. It looked like his rookie year, he was feeling things out, kind of trying to understand what the Magic wanted him to do, getting used to the speed of the game. And look, he hit a wall. He struggled a little bit, especially toward the end of the season. And he sat down because he wasn't as effective. He came into this year, he came into Summer League a lot better, a lot more aggressive, a lot more comfortable. And then watching him at Eurobasket get more comfortable as that tournament went on showed us what he could do. And see that translate now into the preseason and into how the Magic are trying to play in the preseason, that is a big, 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 big benefit. That is a big bonus for this Magic team. They're going to get a lot from Tristan da Silva. And that is a positive thing. I'm really excited about what we're seeing from Tristan. And I think there's plenty for him to build on and plenty for him to grow on there. If this is where we're starting from a very good place. Wendell Carter also looked really good. And I think this is real. It felt like Wendell is not going to have a lot of plays to run for him. His offense is going to come from just like knowing how to read which pocket to go into and knowing how to read the defense, which pockets to roll into, when to pop, when to roll, and just being active and available. And that was a problem in previous years because Wendell Carter just wasn't healthy. It didn't seem like he wanted to take contact. He didn't seem like he wanted to roll to the basket hard. It just didn't seem like he was able to do all the things that he knows he's capable of doing, that we know he's capable of doing, but just hadn't been able to do consistently. Wendell Carter looks as healthy as he's looked in 3 years. Wendell Carter looks bouncy. And one of my big criticisms of Wendell is that he doesn't have a great second jump. Not a big leaper anyway, but doesn't have a great second jump. On both ends of the floor, he looked really, really spry and just was able to get off the floor quickly, was able to do all these little things. And all the Magic players will tell you that the things Wendell Carter does do not show up on a stat sheet. The things Wendell Carter does do not appear regularly. You kind of have to watch the games to understand his value. And so the Magic are getting that. And I think that's a big deal. Now, let's get these stats correct here. Wendell Carter averaged 14 points per game in 4 preseason games. He shot 24, if I can do my math correctly, 24-31, 64.5%. That math checks out. Only 4 for 7 from 3, but we'll take that. He had 7.3 rebounds per game in the 4 games, 2.3 assists per game, and I think that number could bump up. He had 6, remember, in the game against the Pelicans. I really think Wendell Carter is due for a bounce back year. Now, what does that bounce back year look like? I think some games that means he's going to get a double-double. Some games that means he's only going to score 6 or 7 points. Some games that means he's going to score 15. He's going to take what the defense gives him, and the Magic need a guy that's going to fill gaps like that on offense and be able to defend the way the Magic want him to defend. I really think Wendell Carter, I've said this a million times, Wendell Carter is a key to this Magic team's defense. His versatility is so valuable. And this is going to be a big season for Dell to just be present and be available. I think he is, again, I think what we saw from him in the preseason is very, very real. That leaves us with the guys who still have to step up and guys that we need to see more from. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those players coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contacts. With Mint Mobile, you're getting the same quality service you had before, but for a fraction of the price. Their setup is super easy. You can keep your number, and then you're running in minutes. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA to make the switch. An upfront payment of $45 is required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. So who then needs to step up for the Magic? Who in the preseason did not show us everything they're going to show us? I mentioned I'm not worried about Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero during the preseason averaged 13 points per game in his 3 games, shot 40%. He was 12 for 30. Not great, not bad. Shot, let me do my math here, 2 for 8 on threes. Only got to the line 15 times, 5 free throws per game. 5.7 rebounds per game, 1.7 assists per game. It was not Paolo's best, and the numbers looked worse before that preseason finale against New Orleans, which, again, I'm not worried about Paolo. Franz Wagner, same kind of deal. Picked his spots, picked his moments, showed us enough to make us not worried. He finished preseason averaging 16.3 points per game, shot 48.1% on 27 field goal attempts, shot 36.4% from 3. If you give me a sec to do the math, he was 4 for 11 on threes. And again, I think 3 of the makes were in the last preseason game. So they were the main players weren't going to answer these big questions during the preseason. The players who have to answer some questions are guys like Anthony Black. Anthony Black, I thought, got better as the preseason went on. So I want to give him credit. I want to make sure that it's clear that I still like Anthony Black. I still have some questions. I still have some concerns for the overall picture. But if Anthony Black playing meh is 9.3 points per game, scored 9.3 points per game in 20 and a half minutes per game, 42.9% from 3. He shot, let me make sure I do my math here. He shot 6 for 14 from 3. Got to the line for 4 free throw attempts per game. Didn't make as many as he'd like. 3.8 assists per game against 1.8 turnovers per game. If that's what we're going to get from Anthony Black, that will be okay. Will it be everything the Magic want and need from him? Will it satisfy people who are like, oh, he was the 6th overall pick? Probably not. Is it going to make people say like, oh, he is the point guard of the future? No, I am increasingly off the boat that he is a point guard. The Magic want to use him as a wing. They want him to improve a shot. Look, he has improved his shot. I want to give AB all the credit. He looks like a much improved player. The question is of degree. Is he improved enough for what the Magic want and the kind of role that the Magic are envisioning for him? I think there is a lot of attention on a guy like Anthony Black because this team's bench unit is very, very different. Now, look, a lot of the stats, and even like that first half offensive rating stat that I cited, are very, very skewed by that first half against Miami and San Juan. Again, you only have 4 games of data, and especially if you're looking at 4 first halves, a real bad outlier weighs you down. the Magic's bench group was bad against the Miami Heat way back in San Juan a couple weeks ago. It was bad. And Anthony Black was particularly bad in that game. But he has gotten progressively better as the preseason went on. He's gotten more comfortable. He is more confident, I think, stepping into his jumper and stepping into his shots. I think he has taken not I wouldn't say a significant step, but I think he has taken a pretty nice step up for the Magic. Now, again, is it enough? It's a matter of degree. Is it enough to say like, oh, this guy is a sixth man that the Magic need? That I'm not convinced of. Or this guy is, if this thing doesn't work with Tyus Jones as a starter while Jalen Suggs is out, is this the guy that's going to be able to fill in those starter minutes effectively? Is he going to shoot effectively enough for that? I don't know. I still want AB with Tyus Jones as much as possible because they'll cover each other's weaknesses. Tyus can be the playmaker. AB can be the defender. I still want that as much as possible. But, we talk about this all the time, like the difference between the Magic being a really nice team and a potential title contender, it's going to be guys like Wendell Carter and Tristan da Silva and Anthony Black. And the Magic need all of those guys to step up. AB is getting there. Again, maybe it's not quite where we want it to be. And I don't want to cast too many aspersions and too many say too much that, oh, he isn't what we wanted him to be. I don't know about that. But there's clearly still a level that all of these players have to reach. And again, that's kind of what this season's about. It's the journey. It's us getting to that level, getting to that championship level. Let's tell a quick story then. The 2009 Magic, nobody thought that team was going to the finals. They still ran a gimmicky offense. It was all that stuff. You start that season, the Magic were excited about the potential of going back to the second round. And like I remember entering that season very much like I was entering this season saying, I want to see them play better in the second round and compete kind of compete with the team that's going to win the championship. Again, we all assumed it was Boston. Winning that series against Boston was a bonus even with Kevin Garnett out. And again, once you get that far, anything can happen. The last few years have shown us that as much as anything else. But that team, I don't think, and again, I'm an optimist. I believe that team was something special until that West Coast road trip when they beat the Lakers on national TV and they had that big game against the Kings. And I think they swept a West Coast road trip. And I was just like, oh, no, this team is it. It's going to be those games. It's going to be those moments. If, we're going through the first 8 games of the schedule here. Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, at Philadelphia. Let me make sure I'm counting it. At Philadelphia, at Detroit, at Charlotte, at Washington, at Atlanta. The Magic going like 6-2 in that stretch with wins over some of those bigger teams. Like, maybe they split with Atlanta. I'm not expecting them to win that first NBC game against Atlanta. Just end of a long road trip is always tough. But beating Atlanta at home, beating Miami at home, beating Philadelphia, like beating Detroit would be huge. We're going to have moments where it's going to be clear like, oh, no, this team is something different. And look, we've seen it on paper. And preseason didn't provide a lot of clues. But again, like, here's another fun factoid. The Magic had their first undefeated preseason since the 2010-2011 season. Now, that season quickly fell apart. But the Magic started that year 15-4. Coming off the conference finals, coming off of perhaps the best team in Magic history in 2010. The Magic are already doing stuff. And again, preseason wins mean nothing, but the Magic are already doing stuff that reminds us of the best teams in this franchise's history. And so now the question is, how does this all translate? How does this all happen in the regular season? And what's going to be significant? What's going to be the moment that gives this team not just a belief, but the confidence that they are everything they dreamed they could be? Again, in 2009, I don't think we knew that until mid-January, until late January. This is going to be part of the journey, is finding that out, is finding those moments. And those moments aren't defined yet. And so as we get ready to start the season, as we get ready to begin things, this is where we're going to learn a lot about the Orlando Magic. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the Family Standalone podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can check us out as well on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to Locked On Magic, making it your first listen of the day, go make your second listen, the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And Josh, I swear to you, I am putting the jerseys in the mail this week. I'm going to get it done. Going to get those jerseys. Trust me on that. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, though, we will get ready for the season opener against the Miami Heat. We'll chat with Locked On Heat's Wes Goldberg and David Ramil, talk about where the Magic and the Heat stand as they enter the season and what to expect in Wednesday's game. Really fun episode already in the can. It's going to be out. I'm going to try and get it out between the two games tomorrow so you can listen to it while you're watching opening night festivities. The NBA season is here. Really, really excited about this one, as you can tell. We're ready to get this thing going. Again, we have to wait till Wednesday to play, but we're very, very excited. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.